Hey, fake military wannabe! Derek Tank. Rodriguez's voice exploded across the dining facility like artillery fire. The massive SEAL trainee pointed directly at Kate Miller, his voice dripping with contempt. That pathetic tattoo doesn't make you a soldier. Kate Miller, 34 and barely 5'4" in her stained apron, froze mid-step carrying oatmeal from the kitchen. Her light brown hair was tied in a messy high bun with loose curls framing her face, and her captivating green eyes met Tank's hostile glare without flinching. Tank's 5 teammates flanked him, elite warriors confronting one small woman. The entire dining hall went silent. Then the 3-ton supply container being unloaded crashed to the floor with a sound like incoming mortars. Restraining cables snapped. Steel split open. What spilled across the concrete wasn't frozen beef or vegetables. It was dozens of M4 rifles, ammunition crates, and equipment marked classified munitions. Tank stared at the weapons cache, then back at Kate standing beside the evidence with that mysterious 2847 tattoo on her arm. What the hell? His accusation suddenly turned deadly serious. She's the inside man, been smuggling weapons through food supplies. Every eye in the facility locked onto Kate Miller. 200 personnel now saw her as a terrorist infiltrator instead of just a cook with fake military ink. But what these elite warriors didn't know about the woman they'd just cornered was about to flip this entire situation in the most shocking way possible. If you've ever been falsely accused of something you didn't do, you know that sinking feeling in your stomach. Kate's about to experience something far worse than embarrassment. She's facing potential treason charges. But what these SEALs don't know about her past is going to turn this entire situation upside down. Smash that like button if you want to see how one woman's hidden identity completely destroys their assumptions. And subscribe because this story proves that the most dangerous people are often hiding in plain sight. The chaos erupted instantly. Tank Rodriguez, his bald head gleaming under the fluorescent lights and his muscular frame filling out his green military t-shirt, stepped forward like a predator sensing blood. "Look at this setup," he announced to the growing crowd, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Little Miss Fake Soldier here just happened to be standing next to a weapons cache when it spilled. Convenient timing, don't you think?" Kate remained perfectly still, her hands visible at her sides, her green eyes calmly assessing the situation. The natural freckles across her cheeks and nose gave her an almost innocent appearance that contrasted sharply with the accusations flying around her. She wore a fitted light gray t-shirt, slim dark military pants, and brown combat boots, practical clothing that now seemed suspicious to everyone watching. "I was preparing breakfast," Kate said quietly, her voice steady despite being surrounded by hostile faces. "The container accident wasn't my fault." "Accident?" Tank laughed harshly, his teammates joining in. "Rodriguez, Wilson, Brooks, Martinez, Carter, you all see this setup, right? She's standing right there when classified weapons just happened to spill everywhere. That's not coincidence." Staff Sergeant Morrison pushed through the crowd, his weathered face pale as he surveyed the scattered weapons. "Nobody touch anything," he barked, but his eyes kept darting nervously between the evidence and Kate. "This is now a crime scene." Lieutenant Sarah Park from Military Intelligence appeared at Morrison's shoulder, her sharp eyes already cataloging every detail. "Miller, is it?" she asked Kate, pulling out a tablet. "How long have you been working food service here?" 6 years, Kate replied simply. 6 years, Tank repeated mockingly. "Perfect cover. How many weapons shipments have you helped redirect in 6 years, terrorist?" Captain Bradley Stevens arrived at a run, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. The training officer took one look at the situation and immediately focused on Kate. "You," he pointed at her, "step away from the evidence, hands visible at all times." Kate complied without argument, but something in her movement caught the attention of Chief Santos, the dining facility supervisor. Santos had worked with Kate daily for years and knew her routines better than anyone. The way Kate positioned herself wasn't random. She maintained clear sight lines to all exits while keeping her back to a solid wall. That wasn't normal civilian behavior. "Captain Stevens," Santos spoke up hesitantly, "Miller's been our most reliable employee. She knows food service protocols better than anyone on staff." "Protocols?" Tank snorted. "Bet she knows smuggling protocols too. Look at that fake military tattoo. Probably learned about weapons from terrorist training videos." The 2847 tattoo on Kate's left arm was clearly visible beneath her short sleeves, the black numbers stark against her fair skin. To everyone watching, it looked like another wannabe civilian trying to appear military. But something about Kate's reaction to their accusations seemed off. Instead of getting defensive or emotional, she appeared to be mentally cataloging everyone present, noting their positions and potential threat levels. "Those ammunition crates," Kate said suddenly, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Check the lot numbers. They're not standard issue." Lieutenant Park's tablet stopped moving. "What did you say?" "The ammunition. Those aren't standard NATO rounds. The markings indicate specialized loads, probably for designated marksman rifles. Wrong caliber for the M4s they're packed with." The crowd went quiet. Tank's confident smirk faltered slightly. How would a cook know the difference between ammunition types? "That's..." Lieutenant Park checked her tablet, cross-referencing munitions databases. "That's correct. These rounds are 7.62 NATO, not 5.56. They don't match the rifles." Staff Sergeant Morrison looked like he'd swallowed something sour. "Miller, how exactly do you know ammunition specifications?" Kate shrugged slightly. "You pick things up working around military personnel for 6 years. But Chief Santos was frowning now. In 6 years of working together, Kate had never once discussed weapons or ammunition. She talked about recipes, dietary restrictions, food safety protocols. This level of technical knowledge was coming from somewhere else entirely. Tank wasn't giving up his narrative easily. "Nice try with the misdirection," he said, stepping closer to Kate. His size advantage was intimidating. At 6 feet 4 inches and 240 pounds of muscle, he towered over her small frame. "But that just proves you know too much about weapons. Regular cooks don't study ammunition specifications." "Regular cooks," Kate repeated quietly, "don't usually find classified munitions in their food deliveries either." Something in her tone made several people take notice. There was no fear in her voice, no panic at being accused of terrorism. If anything, she sounded almost disappointed, like this situation was an inconvenience rather than a life-threatening crisis. Captain Stevens was on his radio now, calling for base security. "I need a security team to the dining facility immediately. Possible terrorist incident involving weapons smuggling." "Terrorist incident," Kate murmured, so quietly only those closest could hear. Interesting choice of words. Lieutenant Park looked up from her tablet. "Miller, I'm showing your background check came back with some unusual flags. It says to contact higher authority for any security-related incidents involving you." "Higher authority?" Tank laughed. "What, did fake soldier here claim to be Delta Force on her application too?" But Lieutenant Park wasn't laughing. The flags in the system weren't the kind generated by false claims or wannabe behavior. They were the kind that appeared when someone's real background was classified beyond her clearance level. Are you catching the clues about Kate's real background? The way she handles pressure, her tactical awareness, that mysterious tattoo? Veterans watching this will definitely recognize these signs. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that heroes come in unexpected packages, and hit the notification bell because the revelation coming next will blow your mind. Base security arrived in force. 4 armed guards led by Sergeant Martinez, all business as they assessed the situation. The dining facility, which minutes earlier had been filled with casual breakfast conversation, now resembled a crime scene investigation. "Secure the area," Sergeant Martinez ordered. "Nobody touches the evidence. Miller, you're coming with us for questioning." "Wait," Chief Santos stepped forward. "I've worked with Kate for 6 years. She's never shown any suspicious behavior. This has to be a misunderstanding." Tank crossed his massive arms. 6 years of deep cover, you mean? Perfect position to monitor base operations, track security protocols, identify vulnerabilities. Classic terrorist infiltration. Kate finally spoke, her green eyes meeting Tank's hostile stare. "If I were infiltrating this base," she said calmly, "do you really think I'd choose food service? Limited access to sensitive areas, constant supervision, background checks every year for security clearance renewal?" The logic was sound, but Tank wasn't interested in logic. "Maybe you're just not very good at being a terrorist. Or maybe," Kate replied with the faintest hint of a smile, "I'm very good at something else entirely." That smile made Sergeant Martinez pause. In 20 years of military service, he'd learned to read people. Kate Miller wasn't acting like someone caught in a crime. She was acting like someone who knew more about the situation than she was letting on. Lieutenant Park's tablet chimed with an incoming message. She read it twice before looking up with confusion. Captain Stevens, I'm getting word from Military Intelligence Command. They want Kate Miller held in protective custody, not detention. Protective custody? Tank's voice rose. She's caught red-handed with stolen weapons. Actually, Kate said, her voice still maddeningly calm, I wasn't caught with anything. I was preparing breakfast when a supply container malfunctioned and spilled its contents. Significant difference. Captain Stevens studied Kate carefully. Something wasn't adding up. Her language patterns, her calm under pressure, her technical knowledge. None of it fit the profile of either a terrorist or a civilian cook. Miller, Stevens said slowly, what exactly did you do before working here? Food service, Kate replied. Various locations. Military locations? Kate's pause lasted exactly 3 seconds, long enough for everyone watching to notice, short enough to maintain plausible deniability. Some were government contracts. Staff Sergeant Morrison was sweating now, despite the cool morning air. Captain, maybe we should focus on securing the weapons first. Chain of custody, proper evidence handling. But Lieutenant Park was focused on something else entirely. Miller, those ammunition specifications you mentioned, that's not general knowledge. That's specialized information. Where exactly did you encounter 7.62 NATO rounds before? Kate tilted her head slightly, studying Lieutenant Park with new interest. Your military intelligence. That's correct. Then you know that some questions have answers that require proper clearance levels. The statement hit the gathering like a cold slap. Tank's confident expression cracked slightly. Civilians didn't talk about clearance levels. They didn't reference classification protocols. They certainly didn't remain this composed when accused of terrorism. Chief Santos was staring at Kate like she'd never seen her before. Kate, what aren't you telling us? Before Kate could respond, Sergeant Martinez's radio crackled to life. Martinez, what's your status on the dining facility incident? Sir, we have the suspect in custody. One Kate Miller, civilian food service employee caught with classified weapons. Negative on detention, the voice came back immediately. Miller is to be held in protective custody pending arrival of Colonel Martinez. No interrogation until he arrives. Tank's face was turning red. Protective custody? For a terrorist? She's not a terrorist, Lieutenant Park said quietly, her tablet showing new information. Her background check just came back with additional flags. Some very interesting flags. Captain Stevens leaned over to read Park's screen, and his expression changed completely. Holy cow, he whispered. What? Tank demanded. What does it say? Lieutenant Park looked at Kate with new respect. It says Kate Miller's employment file requires confirmation from someone with a pay grade significantly higher than any of ours. How much higher? Sergeant Martinez asked. General officer level. The words hung in the air like smoke from gunfire. Tank's teammates were shifting uncomfortably now, their earlier confidence evaporating. Generals didn't get involved in civilian employee matters. They got involved in matters of national security. Kate remained perfectly still through all of this, her green eyes watching each person's reaction with the kind of systematic observation that suggested advanced training. The natural freckles across her nose and cheeks gave her an almost innocent appearance, but there was nothing innocent about the way she was cataloging everyone's positions, weapons, and probable reactions. In high-pressure situations like Kate faced, having reliable communication equipment can mean the difference between life and death. Military-grade smartphones designed for extreme conditions feature encrypted messaging, satellite connectivity, and reinforced construction that withstands combat environments. These devices provide secure communications even when traditional networks fail, ensuring critical information reaches the right people when seconds count. For professionals who demand absolute reliability, advanced communication technology isn't just convenient. It's essential for mission success and personal safety in unpredictable situations. Staff Sergeant Morrison was looking increasingly nervous. Captain, shouldn't we focus on the weapons? Someone clearly used our supply chain to smuggle classified munitions onto the base. Agreed, Kate said simply. The question is, who had access to modify shipping manifests and bypass security inspections? Lieutenant Park's head snapped up. How do you know about shipping manifests? Supply chain security is basic food service knowledge, Kate replied smoothly. We track every delivery for safety and inventory purposes. But her answer was too smooth, too prepared. Tank might be wrong about Kate being a terrorist, but he wasn't wrong about her knowing too much. Basic food service knowledge, Tank repeated slowly. Right. And I suppose you also learned tactical movement patterns from food service training? Tactical movement patterns? The way you positioned yourself when security arrived. Back to the wall, clear sight lines to exits, hands positioned for immediate response. That's not civilian behavior. Kate's slight smile returned. Maybe you're more observant than I gave you credit for. The admission sent a chill through the gathering. Tank had just identified advanced tactical awareness, and Kate had essentially confirmed it. Colonel Martinez's voice cut through the tension as he approached with a small entourage. What exactly is the situation here? Captain Stevens snapped to attention. Sir, we have a civilian employee found in proximity to classified weapons that spilled from a compromised supply container. The individual shows unusual knowledge of military protocols and ammunition specifications. Colonel Martinez surveyed the scene, the scattered weapons, the gathered personnel, and finally Kate Miller standing calmly in the center of it all. His expression went through several rapid changes as he took in details that others had missed. Everyone except essential personnel, clear the area immediately, he ordered. This is now a classified matter. Sir, Tank protested, this woman is clearly involved in weapons smuggling. We caught her red-handed. Colonel Martinez looked at Tank with the kind of stare that had ended many military careers. Trainee Rodriguez, you are dismissed. Return to your quarters and await further orders. But sir, that wasn't a request. Tank's teammates were already backing away, recognizing the tone of voice that meant immediate compliance or immediate disciplinary action. Tank hesitated, his pride warring with his training, before finally saluting and departing with obvious reluctance. As the crowd dispersed, Colonel Martinez approached Kate directly. Miller, he said, his voice carefully neutral, we need to talk. Yes, sir, Kate replied, and something in her tone made it sound more like a response between equals than between superior and subordinate. Lieutenant Park was still studying her tablet. Sir, Miller's background check is showing some very unusual flags. References to classified programs, clearance levels that shouldn't exist for civilian personnel. I'm aware, Colonel Martinez said quietly. Miller, you understand that your current situation has created some complications. Complications tend to arise when cover stories intersect with real events, Kate replied calmly. The statement hung in the air like a confession, and a warning rolled into one. Cover stories, not background checks or employment histories. Cover stories. Chief Santos was staring at Kate with growing realization. 6 years, she whispered. 6 years you've been working next to me and I never knew. Knew what? Kate asked gently. Who you really are. Kate's green eyes softened slightly. I'm still the same person who makes your coffee exactly how you like it every morning, Chief. Some things don't change. But other things do, Colonel Martinez said grimly. Miller, this incident has compromised operational security in ways that require immediate attention. Private Tommy Chen had been standing at the edge of the group, unnoticed in the drama, but now he stepped forward hesitantly. Sir, I think I saw something last night that might be relevant. All eyes turned to the young soldier. Tommy was barely 20, fresh out of basic training, but his expression was serious. What did you see, Private? Colonel Martinez asked. I was on duty in the supply warehouse around 0200 hours. I saw Lieutenant Rodriguez loading containers onto a civilian truck. When he saw me, he said it was authorized food delivery for off-base catering, but the containers looked heavier than food supplies should be. The information hit the group like a physical blow. Lieutenant Rodriguez, Tank's older brother Marcus, who worked in logistics coordination. Staff Sergeant Morrison's face went ashen. Sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez handles all our supply chain manifests. He has access to shipping schedules, security protocols, inventory systems. Kate was watching Morrison's reaction with interest. Sergeant, you seem concerned. Is there something about the supply chain you'd like to share? Morrison's eyes darted between Kate and Colonel Martinez. All our protocols are standard military procedure, including the protocols for disguising weapon shipments as food deliveries, Kate asked mildly. The question was delivered so casually that it took several seconds for its implications to register. Kate wasn't just observing the investigation. She was conducting it. Lieutenant Park looked up from her tablet with alarm. Sir, I'm showing multiple irregularities in supply manifests over the past 6 months. Weight discrepancies, altered shipping codes, unauthorized after-hours deliveries. All authorized by Lieutenant Rodriguez, Morrison added quickly. I just follow his orders. Kate tilted her head slightly. Interesting. So Lieutenant Rodriguez has been modifying supply chains, authorizing unusual deliveries, and now his brother publicly accuses me of weapons smuggling, almost like someone's trying to deflect attention from the real operation. The logical progression was devastating in its simplicity. Tank's aggressive accusations against Kate suddenly looked less like righteous indignation and more like misdirection. Colonel Martinez was studying Kate with the kind of intensive focus usually reserved for classified briefings. Miller, your analysis of the situation suggests familiarity with investigative protocols beyond civilian experience. Does it? Kate asked innocently. It does. It also suggests you've been conducting your own investigation into supply chain irregularities. Kate's slight smile returned. Food safety is very important, sir. Contaminated supplies can affect the health and readiness of entire units. And weapons smuggling? Also tends to affect readiness, Kate replied dryly. Lieutenant Park's tablet chimed again. She read the message, and her expression shifted to something approaching awe. Sir, I'm getting a priority message from General Morrison's office. He's requesting immediate secure video conference regarding Kate Miller. General Morrison? Colonel Martinez frowned. What's his interest in a civilian food service employee? Before anyone could answer, Kate spoke quietly. Perhaps you should take that call, sir. Her tone suggested she knew exactly what General Morrison was going to say, and that knowledge was about to change everything for everyone present. The secure video conference was set up in Colonel Martinez's office, with Lieutenant Park maintaining the connection and Chief Santos present as Kate's immediate supervisor. Kate herself sat calmly in a chair facing the screen, her hands folded in her lap, looking for all the world like someone attending a routine performance review. General Morrison's face appeared on screen, his weathered features immediately focusing on Kate with unmistakable recognition. Kate, he said simply, his voice carrying weight that made everyone else in the room straighten unconsciously. Sir, Kate replied, and something in her posture shifted. It was subtle, a straightening of shoulders, a slight adjustment in how she held her head, but suddenly she looked less like a dining facility worker and more like someone reporting to a superior officer. How long has it been? 6 years, 2 months, 18 days, Kate answered without hesitation. General Morrison nodded slowly. Colonel Martinez, what exactly happened at your facility today? Colonel Martinez quickly briefed the situation. The container accident, the weapons discovery, Kate's unusual knowledge, the investigation into supply chain irregularities, and the accusations against Kate, made by trainee Rodriguez, whose brother, Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, appears to be involved in the actual smuggling operation. General Morrison's expression darkened. I see. Kate, what's your assessment? Kate spoke with the crisp efficiency of someone delivering a situation report. Sir, weapons have been moved through the food supply chain for approximately 6 months. Lieutenant Rodriguez modified manifests and shipping schedules. Staff Sergeant Morrison altered inventory records to cover discrepancies. Contractor involvement likely. Civilian trucks used for off-base transfers. Weapons appear destined for domestic distribution based on ammunition specifications. The briefing was delivered with the kind of systematic precision that left no doubt about Kate's real background. This wasn't speculation from a civilian observer. This was professional intelligence analysis. Before Kate's true identity gets exposed in the most dramatic way possible, take a second to comment below. What do you think that 2847 tattoo really means? The answer is going to shock everyone in that dining facility. Like this video if you believe people deserve respect regardless of their appearance, because what happens next proves exactly why. General Morrison leaned forward. Colonel Martinez, I need you to understand something. The woman sitting in your office is not Kate Miller, civilian food service employee. The room went dead silent. 6 years ago, she was Chef 7, part of a classified program called Project Shadow Chef. The program trained operatives to infiltrate hostile organizations through food service positions. It was discontinued after a mission in Afghanistan went sideways, and all operatives were presumed killed in action. Colonel Martinez looked at Kate with new eyes. Presumed killed in action? I faked my death, Kate said simply. The mission was compromised by friendly fire. Someone sold our location to the enemy. My entire team was eliminated, and I barely escaped. Going underground was the only way to stay alive long enough to identify the traitor. And now? Kate's green eyes hardened slightly. Now someone's using the same supply chain infiltration techniques that got my team killed to smuggle weapons on American soil. Either it's the same organization, or someone learned from their playbook. Lieutenant Park was frantically taking notes. "Ma'am, Project Shadow Chef, I've never heard of that program." "You wouldn't have," General Morrison said. "It was black budget, need to know only. Kate was our best operative. She could disappear into any kitchen, any dining facility, any food service operation, and become invisible while gathering intelligence." "The 2847 tattoo?" Colonel Martinez asked. "Unit identification, Chef 7, graduated class of 2847. Only 12 operatives ever completed the program, and Kate was the only one who survived the Afghanistan mission." Chief Santos was looking at Kate like she'd never seen her before. 6 years you've been making sandwiches and serving coffee, and you're actually a classified operative?" Kate's expression softened. "I'm actually someone who lost her entire team and chose to honor their sacrifice by protecting people instead of hunting down revenge." "The sandwiches were real, Chief. So was the coffee. So was caring about everyone who ate in that dining facility. But you were investigating the weapons smuggling?" "I was protecting my people," Kate corrected. "When weapons start moving through food service, it threatens everyone who depends on that facility. Military personnel, civilian contractors, families. I couldn't just ignore it." General Morrison's voice cut through the emotion. "Kate, we've been tracking similar operations at 3 other bases. This isn't isolated, it's coordinated. We need Chef 7 back in the field." Kate was quiet for a long moment. "Sir, with respect, Chef 7 died in Afghanistan. Kate Miller makes a much better life. Kate Miller can't stop a network that's smuggling military weapons to domestic terrorist cells," General Morrison replied bluntly. "Chef 7 can." The weight of that statement settled over the room like smoke. This wasn't just about one base or one smuggling operation. This was about national security on a scale that required bringing a dead operative back to life. Kate's ability to analyze complex supply chain data while under pressure demonstrates the importance of advanced cybersecurity training in today's digital battlefield. Professional cybersecurity certification programs teach individuals to identify suspicious patterns, investigate digital evidence, and protect critical infrastructure from sophisticated threats. These comprehensive courses cover everything from network analysis to digital forensics, preparing students for high-stakes careers in military, government, and private sector security. When national security depends on digital vigilance, proper training transforms ordinary employees into first-line defenders against cyber warfare. Lieutenant Park looked up from her notes. "General, what about the Rodriguez brothers and Staff Sergeant Morrison?" "Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez has been under surveillance for 3 weeks, General Morrison revealed. "We've been building a case against the entire network. This incident actually accelerated our timeline." Kate nodded slowly. "You were using the base as bait. We were gathering evidence, but Tank Rodriguez's accusations against you changed the dynamic. If the smugglers think their operation is blown, they'll disappear and restart elsewhere. Unless," Kate said thoughtfully, "they think they've successfully framed me for their operation." Colonel Martinez caught on immediately. "They think you're taking the fall. They'll continue operating, thinking they're safe. Which gives us time to roll up the entire network," Kate finished. "But it means Kate Miller has to disappear, and Chef 7 has to resurface officially." Chief Santos was struggling with the revelation. "So everything I knew about you was a lie?" Kate turned to face her friend directly. "Chief, I make your coffee with 2 sugars and extra cream because you work 16-hour shifts and deserve something good in your day. I cover weekend shifts because I know you have grandchildren you want to visit. I've listened to you worry about your son's deployment and celebrated when he came home safe. None of that was a lie. That was me choosing to care about the people around me." The explanation broke the tension slightly, but the larger implications remained. Kate Miller's quiet life was ending, and Chef 7's dangerous resurrection was beginning. "General," Kate said finally, "if I do this, I want guarantees about the people here. Chief Santos, Private Chen, even the Rodriguez brothers, they don't get hurt because they got caught up in my cover story." "Agreed. But Kate, we need to move fast. Intelligence suggests the network is planning something big for the 4th of July weekend. Military bases, federal buildings, civilian targets. We're talking about a coordinated domestic terror attack using weapons smuggled through military supply chains. The scope of the threat was staggering. This wasn't just about catching smugglers, it was about preventing multiple terrorist attacks on American soil. Kate stood up slowly, and something fundamental shifted in her bearing. The humble dining facility worker was disappearing, replaced by someone harder, more focused, infinitely more dangerous. "All right," she said, her voice carrying new authority. "Let's end this." But as she prepared to reclaim her identity as Chef 7, Kate Miller had no idea that the most dangerous confrontation was still ahead. And it would require choosing between protecting her cover and protecting the innocent people who had become her family over 6 years of hiding in plain sight. The secure conference ended with General Morrison's final directive. Kate would officially remain in protective custody, while privately beginning immediate coordination with federal task forces. But first, she had to deal with the immediate aftermath of her partial exposure. Outside Colonel Martinez's office, the base was buzzing with rumors. Tank Rodriguez was pacing in his quarters, furious at being dismissed before getting answers. His brother Marcus was finishing his shift in logistics, unaware that his operation had been discovered. Staff Sergeant Morrison was in the supply warehouse, probably destroying evidence or planning his escape, and somewhere in the network beyond the base, other members were monitoring communications, ready to execute their 4th of July plan unless Kate could stop them. As Kate prepared to walk back into a world she'd left behind 6 years ago, she realized that the hardest part wasn't going to be catching the bad guys. It was going to be saying goodbye to the good guys who'd become her chosen family, knowing they'd never look at her the same way again. The woman who'd found peace making coffee and serving breakfast was about to become someone who specialized in a much darker kind of service. But some missions were worth any sacrifice, even the sacrifice of the life you'd built to escape from exactly this kind of mission. Kate Miller was about to discover that some ghosts never stay buried, no matter how deeply you dig their graves. The transformation back to Chef 7 wasn't going to be gradual or gentle. As Kate stepped out of Colonel Martinez's office, she could feel the familiar weight of operational awareness settling over her like armor she'd hoped never to wear again. 6 years of peaceful breakfast prep were about to become a memory. Lieutenant Park was waiting in the hallway, her tablet showing new intelligence. "Ma'am, we have a problem. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez just requested emergency leave effective immediately. His paperwork shows a family emergency in Texas." Kate's green eyes sharpened. "He's running. How long before he's off base? His shift ends in 20 minutes. He could be gone within the hour." Chief Santos appeared around the corner, her face etched with concern. "Kate, what's really happening here? The entire dining facility is in lockdown. Tommy Chen looks terrified, and people are saying you're some kind of federal agent." Before Kate could answer, Tank Rodriguez burst through the main entrance, his face flushed with anger and confusion. Despite being ordered to quarters, he'd clearly decided that following orders was less important than getting answers. "Where is she?" Tank demanded, his massive frame filling the hallway. "Where's the terrorist cook who's been playing games with all of us?" Kate turned to face him calmly. "I'm right here, Tank." "You?" He pointed at her like she was a disease. "You've been lying to everyone. My brother Marcus is packing his stuff and talking about leaving the military because of whatever nonsense you've been spreading about him." "Your brother," Kate said carefully, "is involved in something that could get a lot of people killed." Tank's face went red. "My brother is twice the soldier you'll ever pretend to be. He's got commendations, deployment ribbons, real military service, not some fake tattoo and stolen valor nonsense." Kate's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her green eyes. "Tank, you need to step back and let the professionals handle this." "Professionals?" Tank laughed harshly. "You mean you, lady? I've seen through your act from day one. Fake military ink, fake tough guy attitude, fake everything. You're just another civilian wannabe who watched too many war movies." Lieutenant Park tried to intervene. "Rodriguez, you're out of line. Ms. Miller is under protective custody by order of—" "I don't care whose orders," Tank interrupted. "This woman has been running some kind of scam, and now she's trying to frame my brother to cover her tracks. Well, I'm not buying it." Kate sighed quietly. "Tank, your brother has been smuggling weapons through food supply shipments for 6 months. The evidence is overwhelming. This isn't about me trying to frame anyone." "Evidence?" Tank stepped closer, his size advantage obvious. "What evidence? You standing next to weapons when they spilled? You knowing things a cook shouldn't know? Face it, lady, you got caught, and now you're desperately trying to blame someone else." The confrontation was drawing attention. Several off-duty personnel had gathered to watch, and Kate could see cell phones coming out to record. This was exactly the kind of public exposure that could compromise operational security. "Tank," she said quietly, "you're about to make a mistake you can't take back." "The only mistake," Tank replied, reaching for her arm, "is letting you run around free when you should be in a cell waiting for federal agents to—" His hand never made contact. Kate moved with liquid precision, sidestepping his grab and using his momentum to send him stumbling into the wall. The movement was so smooth and professional that everyone watching went silent. Tank recovered quickly, his military training kicking in. "So you do know how to fight. Interesting skill for a cook." "I know a lot of things," Kate replied calmly. Tank circled her like a predator, his teammates who had been ordered away somehow materializing to watch the confrontation. "Prove it then. You want us to believe you're some kind of secret agent? Show us what you've got." Kate glanced at Lieutenant Park, who was frantically trying to radio for additional security. This situation was spiraling beyond any reasonable containment. "Tank, this isn't necessary. Your brother is already under investigation. Nothing you do to me is going to change that." "Maybe not," Tank admitted, "but at least everyone will know that when push comes to shove, fake soldiers get exposed." He lunged forward with the speed and power that had made him a top SEAL candidate. But Kate wasn't there when he arrived. She flowed around his attack like water, maintaining distance while Tank grew increasingly frustrated. "Stand still and fight," he roared. "I'm not here to fight you," Kate replied. "I'm here to stop weapons from reaching people who want to kill Americans. By framing my brother. By following evidence wherever it leads." Tank's next attack was more calculated, using his reach advantage to try cornering Kate against the wall. But as he grabbed for her shoulders, his hands caught the fabric of her gray t-shirt. The material, already stressed from the morning's events, tore under the pressure. The rip ran from her left shoulder down across her back, exposing not just the 2847 tattoo everyone had seen, but the full design underneath it. The numbers were part of a larger piece, an intricate military unit insignia featuring crossed knives, a skull, and wings, with text that read, "Project Shadow Chef, Chef 7, in precise military lettering. The hallway went dead silent. Tank's hands froze mid-grab, his eyes fixed on the exposed tattoo. This wasn't some wannabe civilian's fake military ink. This was the kind of detailed professional work that military units commissioned for their most elite members. The craftsmanship, the symbolism, the text, everything about it screamed authentic special operations. Lieutenant Park's tablet slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering to the floor. Chief Santos's hand flew to her mouth. The gathering crowd stared in shocked silence at proof that everything they thought they knew about Kate Miller had been wrong. "Holy cow," someone whispered. Tank stepped back involuntarily, his aggressive posture crumbling as the implications hit him. Project Shadow Chef wasn't a program any of them had heard of, but the tattoo's craftsmanship and placement screamed classified operations. Real classified operations. Kate stood there calmly, her torn shirt exposing the evidence of who she really was, her green eyes meeting each shocked stare without flinching. The natural freckles across her cheeks and nose seemed almost incongruous with the lethal credentials now displayed on her skin. 2847, Lieutenant Park managed to whisper. "That's not just a number. That's your class graduation date." Project Shadow Chef graduated 12 operatives in 2847, Kate confirmed quietly. "I'm the only one still alive." The words hit the crowd like physical blows. Tank's teammates were backing away now, their earlier support evaporating in the face of what they were seeing. This wasn't about stolen valor or wannabe behavior. This was about a genuine special operations veteran who had been living among them unrecognized for 6 years. Tank himself looked like he'd been struck by lightning. That's real. Yes. You're really military." "I was. Technically, I'm still classified as killed in action." The admission sent another shockwave through the gathering. KIA operatives didn't serve breakfast in dining facilities. They were dead, honored, and buried, unless they weren't actually dead. Chief Santos found her voice first. "Kate, why didn't you ever tell us?" Kate's expression softened slightly as she looked at her friend and supervisor. "Because Chef 7's team was eliminated by friendly fire. Someone in the military sold us out. Going underground was the only way to stay alive long enough to find out who." And now? Now the same techniques that got my team killed are being used to smuggle weapons on American soil. The investigation led me here, to this base, to your dining facility. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking for answers. Tank was staring at the tattoo like it might change if he looked long enough. My brother, is he really involved in weapons smuggling? Kate's voice was gentle but firm. Tank, your brother has been modifying supply manifests, authorizing unauthorized deliveries, and working with civilian contractors to move military weapons off base. The evidence is overwhelming. But he's my brother. He's a good soldier. He wouldn't— Good soldiers can make bad choices, Kate interrupted, especially when someone's paying them enough money to forget their oath. The hallway erupted as someone's radio crackled to life. All units, we have an emergency situation in the supply warehouse. Armed civilian attempting to destroy evidence, requesting immediate backup. Lieutenant Park scooped up her tablet. That's the warehouse where Marcus Rodriguez is working. Kate was already moving, her operational instincts overriding 6 years of civilian caution. Tank, your brother just became dangerous. Stay here. Like hell, Tank replied, his confusion giving way to determination. If Marcus is in trouble, I'm going to help. You don't understand, Kate said, as they ran toward the warehouse. He's not in trouble. He is the trouble. The warehouse was in chaos when they arrived. Security personnel had surrounded the building, but gunshots from inside indicated that Marcus Rodriguez wasn't planning to surrender quietly. Contractor Jake Wilson's truck was parked at the loading dock, its back doors open and partially loaded with weapons crates. Private Tommy Chen was crouched behind a forklift, blood running from a cut on his forehead. When he saw Kate approaching, relief flooded his young face. Ma'am, they've got the warehouse locked down. Lieutenant Rodriguez and some civilian are destroying computers and burning documents. They shot at me when I tried to stop them. Kate assessed the situation with professional efficiency. 2 armed suspects, elevated position, multiple exit routes, civilian equipment providing cover and concealment. Standard military assault tactics wouldn't work without risking Tommy's life and losing critical evidence. But Chef 7 tactics might. Tank, she said quietly, I need you to listen very carefully. Your brother is armed and desperate. He's already shot at a United States soldier. This situation is beyond family loyalty now. Tank's face was pale, but his voice was steady. What do you need me to do? The question surprised Kate. She'd expected more denial, more protection of his brother. Instead, Tank was accepting reality and asking how he could help. Get Tommy to safety. Keep everyone else back. And when this is over, don't blame yourself for your brother's choices. Kate moved toward the warehouse with the fluid grace of someone returning to a familiar environment. 6 years of kitchen work had kept her in shape, but it hadn't maintained her tactical edge. She was about to find out how much rust had accumulated on skills that had once kept her alive in much worse situations. The physical and emotional demands Kate endured highlight why comprehensive health insurance is crucial for military families and veterans. Specialized insurance programs designed for service members provide coverage for combat-related injuries, PTSD treatment, and long-term medical care that standard policies often exclude. These programs understand the unique health challenges faced by military personnel and offer extensive mental health resources, rehabilitation services, and family support systems. When your service puts your health at risk, having insurance that truly understands military life provides peace of mind and financial protection. The warehouse interior was a maze of supply crates, forklifts, and industrial shelving. Kate could hear voices from the office area. Marcus Rodriguez and Jake Wilson arguing about how much evidence they could destroy before security breached the building. The hard drives are wiped, Wilson was saying, his voice carrying the desperation of a man watching his criminal enterprise collapse. But the shipping manifests are paper copies. We need to burn everything. Forget the papers, Marcus replied. We need to get out of here. My cover's blown, and my idiot brother is probably leading them right to us. Kate smiled grimly. Marcus wasn't wrong about Tank, but he was wrong about everything else. The evidence destruction was irrelevant. Federal agencies had been monitoring the operation for weeks. What mattered now was preventing the 2 men from escaping to warn the larger network. She moved through the warehouse like a ghost, using skills that had been drilled into muscle memory during months of training that officially never happened. Project Shadow Chef operatives were taught to be invisible until the moment they chose to be seen. Kate had spent 6 years practicing invisibility in a dining facility. Now it was time to be seen. Rodriguez, she called out, her voice carrying clearly through the warehouse. Marcus Rodriguez, this is Kate Miller. We need to talk. The response was immediate. Gunfire from two different positions, bullets spanging off metal shelving and concrete walls. Kate had anticipated the reaction and was already moving, using industrial equipment for cover while closing distance on her targets. Miller? Marcus's voice was incredulous. The cook? How did a kitchen worker track us down? Kate's reply came from a different position than expected. Maybe because I'm not just a kitchen worker. More gunshots, wild and panicked now. Wilson was firing at shadows while Marcus tried to coordinate their escape, but the warehouse had only 2 exits, and security had both covered. They were trapped with a woman they'd underestimated in the worst possible way. Marcus? Kate called again, her voice now coming from yet another location. Your brother is outside. Tank believes in you, believes you're a good soldier who made a mistake. Don't make him watch you get killed resisting arrest. Tank? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. Tank's here? He's here. He's confused and hurt and trying to understand how his big brother became a weapons smuggler. You can surrender now and maybe salvage some relationship with him, or you can keep shooting and destroy even that. The gunfire stopped. Kate could hear whispered arguing between Marcus and Wilson, the civilian contractor trying to convince the soldier to keep fighting while Marcus wavered. Miller, Marcus called out finally, I know who you are now. Tank told me about your tattoo, about Project Shadow Chef. If you're really military, you understand orders. I was following orders. Kate's voice turned cold. Whose orders, Marcus? People with rank higher than yours. People who said moving these weapons was part of a classified operation. The admission was crucial intelligence. Marcus wasn't just a corrupt soldier, he was a manipulated one. Someone higher up the chain had convinced him that weapons smuggling was patriotic duty. Marcus, those people lied to you. The weapons you've been moving are going to domestic terrorists planning attacks on American civilians. 4th of July weekend, multiple targets. You've been helping plan mass murder on American soil. The silence that followed was absolute. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was barely audible. That's not... They said it was supplying allies. Overseas operations. Classified but legitimate. Jake Wilson, Kate called to the contractor. You want to tell Marcus the truth about where those weapons are really going, or should I? Wilson's response was to resume shooting, but his aim was wild with panic. Marcus, however, had stopped firing entirely. Wilson, Marcus shouted, tell me Miller's lying. Tell me we're not arming terrorists. Wilson's continued shooting was answer enough. Marcus Rodriguez finally understood that he'd been played, that his patriotism had been weaponized against the very country he'd sworn to protect. Miller, Marcus called out, his voice heavy with realization. If I surrender, if I cooperate fully, can you make sure Tank knows I thought I was serving my country? Kate's voice softened. I can make sure he knows you chose to do the right thing when it mattered most. The sound of a weapon hitting the concrete floor echoed through the warehouse. Wilson, stop shooting. We're done. But Wilson wasn't done. His civilian status meant no military honor code, no oath of service, no loyalty to anything except profit. He continued firing while moving toward a back exit, leaving Marcus exposed and abandoned. Kate made her move then, flowing between cover points with lethal efficiency. Wilson never saw her coming. One moment he was firing at shadows, the next he was on the ground with his weapon kicked away and Kate's boot on his chest. Jake Wilson, she said calmly, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit terrorism, weapons trafficking, and being generally unpleasant to work with. Marcus Rodriguez emerged from cover with his hands raised, his face streaked with tears of shame and realization. Miller, I'm sorry. I believed them when they said, I know, Kate said gently. They're very good at finding good soldiers and turning them into unwitting accomplices. That's why this network is so dangerous. The warehouse doors burst open as security teams swarmed in, followed by Tank Rodriguez at a dead run. The massive SEAL trainee took in the scene, his brother in custody, Wilson zip-tied on the floor, Kate standing over both of them looking perfectly composed, despite having just conducted a single-handed assault on 2 armed suspects. Marcus? Tank's voice was thick with emotion. Tank, I messed up. I messed up bad. Marcus couldn't meet his brother's eyes. I thought I was following legitimate orders, but they used me. They used me to help terrorists. Tank looked at Kate with new understanding. You could have killed them both. Killing them wouldn't get us the intelligence we need to stop the July 4th attacks, Kate replied practically. Besides, your brother was manipulated. Wilson was the real enemy. The aftermath moved quickly. Federal agents arrived to take custody of Wilson and process Marcus as a cooperating witness. Lieutenant Park coordinated with multiple agencies to trace the weapons network. Chief Santos supervised cleaning up the mess in the dining facility. And Kate found herself once again the center of attention. But this time the attention came with respect instead of suspicion. The way this story ends will stay with you long after you finish watching. Kate's choice between safety and service reflects what real heroism looks like. If this story moved you, share it with someone who's ever felt underestimated. Subscribe for more incredible tales of hidden strength, and remember, the person serving your food might just be the one person capable of saving your life. As the immediate crisis wound down, the consequences began rippling outward in ways that would reshape not just the base, but the entire network Kate had spent 6 years unknowingly infiltrating. Colonel Martinez was coordinating with federal task forces to roll up similar operations at 3 other military installations. The intelligence from Marcus's cooperation had provided a roadmap to a conspiracy that reached into defense contractors, logistics companies, and military leadership at multiple levels. Staff Sergeant Morrison, faced with overwhelming evidence of his participation, had confessed to altering inventory records in exchange for $50,000. His military career was over, but his cooperation would help ensure that other compromised personnel could be identified before more damage was done. Tank Rodriguez sat with his brother in a secure briefing room, listening to Marcus detail how he'd been recruited by what he thought was a classified military operation. The manipulation had been sophisticated, involving forged orders, fake clearances, and convincing cover stories that had made weapons smuggling seem like patriotic duty. "They targeted soldiers like me," Marcus explained, his voice hollow with shame. "People with access but not enough rank to question orders from above. They made us feel special, chosen, part of something important." Tank's massive hands were clenched into fists, but his anger wasn't directed at his brother anymore. "Who were they? Who recruited you?" "Higher ranking than I ever thought possible," Marcus replied. "People with stars on their shoulders, people with congressional connections, people who could make orders seem legitimate even when they weren't." The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. This wasn't just criminal enterprise. It was infiltration of the military at levels that threatened national security. Kate stood at the warehouse loading dock, watching federal agents catalog evidence while General Morrison's helicopter approached for landing. 6 years of hiding were about to end officially, and she wasn't sure how she felt about that. Chief Santos approached with 2 cups of coffee, prepared exactly the way Kate liked it, with cream and sugar, a small gesture of continuity in a day that had upended everything. "So," Chief Santos said quietly, "what happens now? Do you disappear again? Do you go back to being Chef 7 officially?" Kate accepted the coffee gratefully. "I don't know, Chief. For 6 years I've been Kate Miller, dining facility worker. That person was real, even if her background wasn't. She cared about making good food, taking care of people, creating a small corner of peace in a dangerous world." "And Chef 7? Chef 7 specializes in violence and secrets and missions that leave people dead." Kate sipped her coffee, finding comfort in the familiar taste. "I'm not sure I want to be her again." General Morrison's helicopter touched down in the warehouse parking lot, its rotor wash scattering dust and debris. As the engines wound down, Kate could see the general emerging with a small entourage of federal agents and military personnel. "Time to find out what the future holds," Kate murmured. General Morrison approached with the bearing of someone carrying the weight of difficult decisions. His weathered face was grave as he surveyed the scene. The arrested contractors, the evidence of weapons smuggling, the base personnel who had discovered they'd been living alongside a classified operative for 6 years. "Kate," he said simply. "Sir?" "Walk with me." They moved away from the crowd, finding a quiet spot near the warehouse fence where they could speak privately. General Morrison studied Kate's face carefully, looking for signs of the operator he'd once commanded. "How are you holding up?" "Honestly, sir, I'm not sure. 6 years ago, I wanted nothing more than to disappear forever. Today, I stopped a terrorist attack and helped expose a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of military command. I'm having trouble reconciling those 2 realities." General Morrison nodded slowly. "The Kate Miller who's been serving coffee and making sandwiches, she's real. The skills and training and instincts that let her stop today's operation, they're real too. The question is whether you can find a way to be both. Is that an option? It's the only option I'm willing to consider, General Morrison replied firmly. Chef 7 was my best operative, but she was also someone who cared deeply about protecting innocent people. Kate Miller has spent 6 years doing exactly that, just in a different way. I need someone who can be both. Kate was quiet for a moment, watching federal agents load evidence into trucks while base personnel tried to process what they'd learned about their quiet dining facility worker. What exactly are you asking me to do? Lead a task force to dismantle this network completely. Use Kate Miller's cover and knowledge of food service operations to identify other infiltration points. Use Chef 7's skills to take down the people responsible for turning good soldiers into unwitting accomplices. The mission parameters were appealing. Stop terrorists, protect soldiers, expose traitors. But Kate had learned to be suspicious of missions that seemed too straightforward. What aren't you telling me, General? Morrison's slight smile suggested he'd expected the question. The conspiracy goes deeper than we initially thought. Some of the people giving Marcus Rodriguez orders have clearances higher than mine. Taking them down is going to require someone who doesn't officially exist. Someone who's been dead for 6 years. Someone who can disappear again if necessary. Kate understood the implications. This wasn't just about one mission. It was about returning to a life of classified operations, assumed identities, and moral ambiguity. It was about giving up the peace she'd found in Kate Miller's simple existence. But it was also about preventing mass casualties, protecting the military from infiltration, and ensuring that good soldiers like Marcus Rodriguez didn't get manipulated into betraying everything they'd sworn to protect. General, I have conditions. Name them. The people here, Chief Santos, Tommy Chen, even Tank Rodriguez, they don't get punished for my deception. They've been good people who deserved honesty, and they didn't get it because of operational security. Agreed. Marcus Rodriguez gets credit for cooperation and gets help rebuilding his life after this is over. He was manipulated, not corrupted. Also agreed. And Kate Miller doesn't disappear completely. Whatever identity Chef 7 uses, she maintains connection to the people who mattered to her here. General Morrison considered this carefully. That's irregular. Deep cover operatives typically sever all previous connections. Then find a way to make it regular, Kate replied firmly. I won't abandon people who became family just because it's operationally convenient. The general studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, we'll find a way to make it work. As they walked back toward the warehouse, Kate could see Tank Rodriguez approaching with obvious uncertainty. The massive SEAL trainee looked like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Ma'am, he said, stopping a respectful distance away. I owe you an apology. Tank, you don't owe me anything. I do. I spent this entire day calling you fake, questioning your service, treating you like a criminal. And the whole time, you were protecting us from actual criminals. Kate's green eyes were gentle as she looked at the young man who'd gone from antagonist to ally in the space of a few hours. Tank, you did exactly what a good soldier should do when something seemed wrong. You asked questions, you pushed for answers, you protected your brother. The fact that you were wrong about me doesn't make you wrong about your instincts. But I was so sure. You were sure because I wanted you to be sure. Kate Miller was designed to be unremarkable, unthreatening, forgettable. If you'd seen through her cover immediately, it would have meant I was doing my job poorly. Tank's confusion was evident. So you're not angry that I accused you of being a terrorist? Kate's slight smile returned. Tank, 6 hours ago you thought I was a cook with a fake tattoo. Now you know I'm a classified operative who helped stop a domestic terrorism plot. Your world got turned upside down today. A little confusion and anger is perfectly reasonable. The conversation was interrupted by Tommy Chen running up with obvious excitement. Ma'am, Lieutenant Park says the task force arrested 12 people at 4 different bases. The whole network is collapsing. Kate felt a surge of satisfaction. This was why the mission mattered, not for revenge or glory, but for results that protected innocent people. Tommy, how's your head? The young soldier touched the bandage on his forehead where he'd been injured during the warehouse incident. It's fine, ma'am. Just a scratch, but I wanted to thank you for getting me out of there safely. Tommy, you're the one who provided the intelligence that broke this case open. You saw something wrong and reported it. That's real courage. As the various personnel began dispersing to handle the aftermath, Kate found herself standing with Chief Santos, and watching the controlled chaos of a major investigation. "So," Chief Santos said quietly, "I guess this means you won't be making coffee tomorrow morning." Kate's expression grew thoughtful. "Actually, Chief, I think I will be. Different circumstances, different responsibilities, but I'll still be here. Kate Miller isn't disappearing completely." "Really?" "Really. I've learned that you can be more than one thing at the same time. I can be Chef 7 when national security requires it, and Kate Miller when my friends need coffee made exactly right." Chief Santos smiled for the first time all day. "In that case, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Regular time?" "Regular time," Kate confirmed. As the sun set over Naval Base Coronado, Kate Miller stood at the edge of her old life and the beginning of something new. She wasn't the same woman who'd fled Afghanistan 6 years ago, broken and betrayed. She wasn't just the quiet dining facility worker who'd served coffee and sandwiches without complaint. She was someone who had learned that service came in many forms, that strength could be hidden in plain sight, and that sometimes the most important battles were fought by people no one expected to be warriors. General Morrison approached one final time as his helicopter prepared for departure. "Kate, are you ready for this?" Kate looked around at the base that had been her home for 6 years, at the people who had become her chosen family, at the evidence of a conspiracy she'd helped expose. She thought about Marcus Rodriguez, manipulated into betraying his oath. She thought about Tommy Chen, brave enough to report suspicious activity despite the risk. She thought about Tank Rodriguez, learning that heroism came in unexpected packages. "General," she said finally, "I've been ready for 6 years. I just didn't know it yet." The helicopter lifted off, carrying General Morrison back to Washington where plans would be made and operations authorized. But Kate remained on the ground, exactly where she belonged. 3 weeks later, Naval Base Coronado looked almost normal. The investigation had concluded, the arrests had been made, and life had settled into new routines. The dining facility operated under enhanced security protocols, but breakfast still started at 0600 hours. Kate Miller stood behind the coffee station, preparing the first pot of the day exactly the way Chief Santos liked it. Her light brown hair was tied in its familiar messy bun, her gray t-shirt was clean and pressed, and her green eyes held the calm competence that had always been her trademark. But now everyone who looked at her knew they were seeing more than just a dining facility worker. The 2847 tattoo on her arm was no longer hidden, and the respect in people's voices when they spoke to her was genuine. Tank Rodriguez entered at exactly 0615, as had become his routine. He'd requested transfer to Kate's dining facility after the incident, claiming he wanted to learn about real service from someone who understood it. "Morning, ma'am," he said, accepting his coffee with the kind of reverence usually reserved for sacred rituals. "Morning, Tank. How's your brother doing?" "Better. The counseling is helping him process what happened. He wanted me to thank you again for giving him a chance to do the right thing." Kate nodded, pouring coffee for the growing line of personnel. "Redemption is possible for anyone willing to earn it." Tommy Chen appeared at the serving window, his youthful enthusiasm undimmed despite his brief encounter with violence. "Ma'am, Lieutenant Park wants to know if you're available for a briefing at 0900 hours. "Tell her I'll be there," Kate replied, ladling oatmeal into his bowl. "And Tommy, extra bacon today. Growing soldiers need proper nutrition." As the morning rush continued, Kate moved through her routines with practiced efficiency. To casual observers, she looked exactly like the unremarkable dining facility worker she'd always appeared to be. But those who knew better could see the subtle differences. The way she positioned herself to maintain visual contact with all entrances, the way her eyes tracked movement patterns and cataloged faces, the way she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced down armed enemies and emerged victorious. Chief Santos appeared at her shoulder, watching the organized chaos of breakfast service with satisfaction. "Any word on your next assignment?" Kate's smile was mysterious. "Let's just say that Kate Miller's skills in food service are about to become very valuable in some interesting places. Dangerous places? Probably, but places where good food and careful observation can save lives." As the breakfast rush wound down, Kate stepped outside for a brief break. The California sunshine felt warm on her face, and the ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and possibility. Her secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message. "New operation authorized. Target, Defense Contractor Conference in Dallas. Cover, Catering Supervisor. Duration, 6 weeks. Accept? Kate looked back at the dining facility where Tommy Chen was wiping down tables, Tank Rodriguez was helping with inventory, and Chief Santos was preparing for the lunch shift. These people had become her family, her anchor to normalcy, in a world of shadows and secrets. But somewhere in Dallas, defense contractors were planning operations that could threaten national security. Somewhere, good soldiers were being recruited for missions they didn't understand. Somewhere, weapons were moving toward people who wanted to hurt innocent Americans. Kate typed her reply. Accepted. When do I start? The response came immediately. Welcome back, Chef 7. Kate smiled, pocketing the phone and returning to the kitchen. She had coffee to make, lunch to prepare, and people to take care of. Tomorrow she might be infiltrating defense contractors and gathering intelligence on national security threats. But today, she was Kate Miller, dining facility worker, friend and guardian of a small corner of peace in a dangerous world. 3 months later, the Dallas operation had exposed corrupted defense contractors selling weapons technology to foreign agents. But as Kate prepared for her next assignment, Chief Santos approached with troubling news about suspicious new personnel files. Kate examined the contractor records, spotting discrepancies and recognizing hostile operative signatures in one man's scarred hands and calculating eyes. Her secure phone buzzed. The game isn't over, Chef 7. Some ghosts refuse to stay buried. Kate smiled grimly, her green eyes reflecting unshakable steel. Then it's a good thing ghosts know how to haunt back. Some battles never end. They just change battlefields. Heroes stand guard between peace and chaos, protecting the innocent one breakfast at a time.